know what really makes us mad? Is wasting money on CDs with only one or two good songs.
Yeah. Tell them about punk.
What's up, posers, and welcome to Punk Lotto Pod. I'm your co-host, Justin Hensley.
I'm your other co-host, Dylan Hensley.
And this is the show where we choose one year at random and select one punk, hardcore, emo, or punk-adjacent album from that year to discuss. And I think today's album is very much in the punk-adjacent category, but we'll get into that. Patreon.com/punklautopod is where you get access to all of our weekly bonus audio, where last week, what did we do?
Last week, we did a chart dive on the Billboard rock charts for this week, at least, in 1982. So, corresponding with the album that we're talking about, lots of Asia.
Yes. Asia appears many times on that chart. It was funny because we looked at it beforehand, we're like, this is a pretty good chart. And then, we got into it, we're like, oh, this isn't that great. A lot of Asia, a lot of, Van Halen, but not the ones you know as well.
Yeah, 2 Van Halen covers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for rock music. Early 80s being still quite a few 70s guys hanging around.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's 82, so you think you'd see way more new wave in there, but you didn't really see that much. I wonder if a lot of that stuff is in the Hot 100. Played
Probably
on the pop stations.
Yeah.
It's technically still a rock genre, guys. But I guess they think of it as pop music. But then there's still stuff like Soft Cell in there. So it's I guess it just means that song got played on rock radio.
Yeah. It would be what's playing on rock radio and whatever stations, is basically just the station classification. So.
Yeah. And you can sign up at our $5 producer tier and get access to an exclusive once-a-month bonus audio for producers only, where they get to vote on what episode we are covering. And you also get your name said on the show every single week. So let's shout out our producers. So, shout out to Dave Brown, host of the podcast One Band, 5 Songs, as well as the writer of the newsletter Oklahoma Lefty. And this week, as we're recording this, Dave wrapped up his top 100 albums of the 21st century so far. It's a really fun idea. I really enjoyed the entire series. So if you go to his newsletter, you could read all that there. A lot of good stuff. Inspired me to do my own top 100. And I've been working on the notes for it. And I think I'm going to do an audio format for it. So be on the lookout for that. And also shout out to Steve Long, host of the podcast Rebel Nerd Radio. And he too also did his top 100 albums of the 21st century. So it's a fun game. It's very addictive. Everybody wants to kind of put it together, their own little list. So Dylan, you should do one of those. It's fun. And then shout out to Jason W., writer of the newsletter Songs About Chocolate and Girls, and shout out to Zach in Oregon. So a lot of stuff to check out there. And then you can sign up at our $10 tier, where you choose the album we devote an entire episode to. So we got one of those coming up fairly soon. So be on the lookout for that. All right, it was your turn to be assigned the year, so I gave you the year 1982, and we've hit this year a couple times now, where we have previously covered, on episode 264, The Waitresses, Wasn't Tomorrow Wonderful, which I believe was your pick as well. Episode 180, we did a best of 1982. It was a little experimental thing we did there, where we made a top 10 of albums from 1982, and we each chose 10 records. I'd be kind of curious to do one of these again with our collaborative approach that we did for the Best of 2024 episode, because I think that might be a little bit more fun if we just made a collective top 10 instead of a 20. Episode 149, we did the Bangles self-titled EP with the band Bat Fangs. So we had Lauren and Betsy from Bat Fangs, now of Superchunk, on to talk about that Bangles EP. Then episode 121, we did Flex Your Head, the Discord Records compilation, which is a top 10 episode for us, one of our most listened to episodes. Episode 66, we did Crass's Christ, the album, as well as Battalion of Saints, Fighting Boys. I have no memory at all about that Articles of Faith side. I remember doing the Crass part, but I don't remember the Articles of Faith at all.
The Articles of Faith or Battalion of Saints?
Excuse me. That's Battalion of Saints. Because in episode
Just
20,
said the name.
because in episode 22 we did the Circle Jerks and Articles of Faith. So my eyes jumped to the line above. So we've done Battalion of Saints and Articles of Faith EPs, and I don't remember either one of those.
Little misfire there.
Yeah. The Circle Jerks record was Wild in the Streets, which not a good record.
Didn't care for it. We
Sorry.
got yelled at for that.
Yeah, we did. People didn't like that we didn't like Circle Jerks. They're fine.
They're fine. They're fine at best.
Yeah. Like, I would go to that anniversary tour they're doing right now if the Rocket from the Crypt show was actually anywhere outside of the one date in California.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've hit 1982 a couple times, and before we look into like the bigger records that came out that year, what are some albums that you were considering for us to talk about?
Yeah, I did not spend a ton of time considering other options, though I did have a few selections. My other contenders, I had considered talking about Vacation by Go-Go's. Very fun record. It's definitely one that we'll do on the show someday.
Yeah.
I could very easily see it being the pick that either you or I make the next time we hit 1982.
Yeah. I mean, out
out
of your list of options, that was my number one. Like, I would have picked that one out of the four you chose.
I was considering Miami by the Gun Club because it's a great record and they're an interesting band, and that's definitely the one to do. And I think I wondered how we feel about where is it seasonally appropriate is the question. Do we limit the Gun Club to a psychobilly option for Halloween Spooktacular? I don't consider them a psychobilly band really at all, but they have enough of that like punk blues, a little bit of a psychobilly-ish, mostly by way of the Cramps. They've got the garage punk, gothic kind of vibe, definitely from the LA death rock scene, or at least adjacent to it. So, but I don't know if they're firmly enough into any of those genres to really like make them strictly, because Dwight Yoakam is from that scene too. So like X were in that scene too. It's very much like the LA cowpunk and death rock scenes kind of overlapped a lot. So I feel like they have a dark aura, but the songs themselves are not overtly macabre enough to be Halloween specific.
They feel like a band that could work in a Halloween Spectacular, but also it'd be fine if we did them outside of it too. Like I mean, we've done records that would have fit in the Halloween Spectacular theme outside of October before, so it's not impossible to do that kind of thing, but we do tend to keep them kind of limited to there just because we do the 3 weeks of it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they could go either way. They're an edge case for both options. So yeah, just whenever the mood strikes us, I guess.
We'll see how we feel this October. Yeah,
we're
might wind up being one of the ones that we pick because we're running out of options.
At least for bands we haven't covered.
Yeah, and that would be the record I would want to do.
Yeah,
by them. I did consider Hex Induction Hour by The Fall, and we keep almost picking a fall record. We're long overdue for a fall record.
Yeah.
We've never done a fall record on the show.
Yeah, they've not been able to get over that hump, of like us finally choosing the album.
Yeah, I feel like they're always just squeezed out.
Yeah.
By a couple of other more appealing options. Because most fall records, and we're converts to the fall. But I would say with that comes a degree of trepidation. I think most of their records require a buy-in. Kind of, there's an amount of work that you have to do when listening to their records. They're not easy listening punk records. And they certainly have records that you, depending on which one you pick, might be rougher around the edges.
Yeah. I feel like we're safe if we stay in like the 70s and 80s. Like, we're bound to get like one of their great ones.
Yeah.
I mean, though they have a pretty consistent output as far as like fans of The Fall seem to like most all eras of the band, but there are weaker points for sure.
And I'm familiar with this record. I have listened to this record. It's the one that Who Makes the Nazis song is on here. It's good. I do recall it being a long record. Definitely one where there may be some songs that we don't care for as much. I feel like Nation Saving Grace or Ben Sinister, like those might be more fun to do.
Yeah.
But that's all I was considering. There's the record I did end up picking. But
Yeah. Well, let's look at the other records that came out that year. So, 1982, we have Pornography by The Cure. That's a tough album. It's like a classic, but it's not an easy listen. It's still in this time period where they don't have as many like pop hits, but are like critically acclaimed.
I have heard that record. It's not fun.
Yeah.
Really, honestly, like, I'm really not that much of a fan of any albums except for Disintegration, of the records that I've heard.
We also have The Dreaming by Kate Bush, and this is this the follow-up to... No, Hounds of Love is the record after this one.
This is such a stretch to be on the charts, but it's because Gothic rock is categorized under punk, right?
Yeah, it's the one genre that has the tag to it, because the rest are all art pop, progressive pop, art rock, all this other stuff. So, Bad Brains by Bad Brains was released in 1982. This is what they call the ROIR tape, ROIR tape. And then they wound up re-recording a bunch of these songs for Rock for Light. But then the recording for that record sounds like shit, because it's like mastered at the wrong speed or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like the CD version is mastered at the wrong speed, and that's the version that's on streaming. I think that's how it works, but yeah.
Somebody said, I wish that this didn't sound like it was recorded on an N64 mic.
That's good. But yeah, that's a classic record. Definitely some amazing stuff. Sailing On, Attitude, Regulator, Bandit DC, Fearless Vampire Killers, Big Takeover, Pay to Come. Yeah, it's a great record. Their best, actually. I don't think there's really much competition as far as their discography goes. I mean, I know Rock for Light's got fans, and Eye Against Eye have fans, but not as good as the self-titled. Descendants, Milo Goes to College, was also released this year, so this is actually kind of a fairly important year for the LP in punk rock, especially in America. You know, we have Bad Brains, we have Descendants, we have The Dead Kennedys, Plastic Surgery Disasters, we got Walk Among Us by the Misfits, we've got Verses by Mission of Burma, Album, Generic Flipper by Flipper. I'm naming specifically the US stuff. The Faith Void Split, the Bad Religion LP, How Could Hell Be Any Worse? Yeah, it's a strong year for punk rock LPs.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, plenty of significant records. That Fear record, Millions of Dead Cops, Forever Now by Psychedelic Furs. That's a great record.
Yeah. Under the Big Black Sun by X. And if you look at the Brits, I guess, we could mention what they were doing. The Clash released Combat Rock, which is considered one of the worst records they ever put out, right?
No. It's generally well regarded. Cut the Crap's the worst one.
Oh, that's the one that's like
Cut the Crap's
really
the
bad.
The bad 1985.
I do think Combat Rock is a record, though, that people don't like. I think in the moment, it was more disliked. I think it's come back around, because it's still the lowest album next to Cut the Crap. Lowest rated album.
Combat Rock is the pop record.
Mm-hmm.
It has Rock the Casbah. It has Should I Stay or Should I Go?
Man, and I hate those songs, and that's what made me think I hated The Clash for so long. Like, I genuinely despise those songs.
You would not. I don't think you would like this record.
No, I don't think
those
I would.
Those are the strong songs on the record.
Woof.
Know Your Rights is pretty good. You know, like, there's good stuff on there. Straight to Hell that's the one that was the background is the sample that is used in the MIA Paper Planes
Oh yeah
song. Combat Rock is the record that they had to make Sandinista to figure out how to make.
Oh, they couldn't get to Combat Rock without it.
They did all the experimenting on the triple LP, and then they were like, okay, let's turn these into pop songs. Let's cut all of that down to one LP.
And it's like mainly a Mick Jones record, right? Like he's the main singer on that album.
Joe is lead on a lot of songs. He's not the lead on Should I Stay or Should I Go, but he is the lead on Rock the Casbah.
He's not the lead on that song?
No, Mick sings lead on Should I Stay or Should I Go.
That's what I said. Mick.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You're talking about what Joe doesn't sing.
I'm saying Joe does sing Know Your Rights, Car Jamming, Rock the Casbah.
I guess he does. There's a lot of both of them
Straight to
singing on this
Hell.
one.
Most of it he's the lead singer on.
Weird. He just didn't get the singles.
Well, yeah, he did. He got Rock the Casbah.
Yeah. It sounds more like Mick, but it just sounds like a Mick song, I guess. But it's not. It's a Topper Hydron, and Joe and Mick wrote that one. So
I am weirdly seeing that Joe Eli does backing vocals on Should I Stay or Should I Go. I wonder if surely that's the Joe Eli, the country singer.
probably, yeah.
We got way in the weeds on combat rock.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever get that record on the show, so. We have Discharge. We have XTC's English Settlement. Bauhaus's The Sky's Gone Out. Susie and the Banshees' A Kiss in the Dream House. Pretty good record. It's not a super standout album, though.
I feel like that record is very enjoyable to listen to, but maybe doesn't have standout songs.
Yeah, it's the follow-up to Juju, and I feel, it feels like a letdown compared to Juju. Not that it's a bad record, but it just feels like, oh yeah, it's not that record. And then they did Hyena after that. We're entering the Robert Smith era of Susie and the Banshees. And I don't love that era. It's not my favorite era of them. And if you want to look at the more arty, new wavy-ish kind of stuff, we have Oingo Boingo's Nothing to Fear, Flock of Seagulls self-titled record, Devo's Oh No It's Devo. We got 2 Orange Juice records.
We got Wall of Voodoo, Call of the West.
Yeah.
It's a weird record. I've actually listened to it. Weirdly.
I think
you got it on 82 a few years ago.
Is this the one I listened to? No, I don't think I did. I did Timbuk 3. That's what I did. I didn't do Wall of Voodoo, the other IRS band. Yeah, it's funny. You get on page 2, and then you're like, oh, what's over here? We got Back from Samoa by the Angry Samoans. The Meat Puppets self-titled. The debut self-titled.
Strawberries by the Damned. That's a great record.
Yeah, that's a really fun record. The Exploited, Troops of Tomorrow. We're in UK 82 territory here.
Yeah, we got Charged, DBH.
Yeah. Lords of the New Church, self-titled record. Yeah. It's,
I was thinking about this... because I just saw the Crass album that we talked about before, and I was thinking about this when you mentioned that we did that Crass record before. I was like, it's unfortunate that that's the one we did. We really probably do owe it to them to do one of the first 3. Any of the other.
Yeah, where does this one fall in their catalog, at least as far as like general consensus?
It's second highest rated, according to Your Music listeners, but
it's not. Yeah, but it's
not as popular. It's
fourth,
like half as many ratings as Penis Envy and Feeding of the 5,000. So
yeah, and it's even less than Stations of the Crass. So yeah, I bet Stations of the Crass is probably more important than Christ the album, but it seems like Feeding of 5,000 is, and Penis Envy. Penis Envy is like really critically acclaimed. It's an important record, but it's also like a specific album in their catalog. Like that's the one where it's like only female singers, right? Is that how that record went down? It's like a specific, like none of the men sing, I think is the idea of that album. So it's like essentially an experiment within their own catalog. So, which it's also the one that people like the most, which makes me go, maybe you should let them sing all the time. But yeah, 1982, pretty big year, important stuff going on here. Yeah, a strong year for punk. With the 80s, you don't get a ton of strong years, especially once you get on the late period of the back half of the 80s. So yeah, this is a good run of records. So, well, let's get into the album that we are actually talking about today. So I gave you the year 1982, and you selected After the Snow by Modern English. stats on the band. They were from Colchester, Essex, in the United Kingdom. They formed in 1979, and this album was released April 23rd, 1982 on 4AD Records. This is the band's second full-length album, and the personnel is Michael Conroy on bass and violin, Richard Brown on drums and percussion, Gary McDowell on guitar, Stephen Walker on keys, and Robbie Gray on vocals. And the album was produced by Hugh Jones and the band. So first thing we always ask, what made you choose this album for us to talk about?
Well, I think I told you when I selected the records, you kind of responded to this was one of the ones that you pointed out of interest. And I was like, yeah, that's the first one, honestly, the first one I saw on the chart that like I was really excited to possibly talk about, which is ultimately why I decided to go with it, because I've heard that record, but I've only listened to it like one time before. But it really stuck in my head. Like it was a very informative listen. Like I listened to it and I remember thinking probably like it was probably like by the time the record ended, I was like, that was really good. That was like way better than I thought it would be. And I definitely had a pretty distinct memory of that listening to that record. Like I knew where I was. Like I listened to that record in the car driving to Palm Springs. I feel like I was deep diving 82. I want to say some of the other records I listened to in the car on that trip. There was like a Roxy Music record that I listened to, and there was, I know I listened to Rio by Duran Duran. Surprisingly, doesn't show up on the punk charts.
I think it's just because
romantic would fall under. I would have thought that would fall under the punk umbrella.
Yeah, a lot of the new wave stuff and the new romantic stuff doesn't for some reason.
They treat
it's just
new
like
wave as a separate genre.
Yeah,
rock instead of
which makes no sense because new wave comes from post punk. Like it's a straight line.
Well, not really. Not if you consider like Blondie, because you have to think about new wave as being new wave of rock music in the late 70s, and it covers a lot of like power pop and a lot of, it's just one of those sounds that's like adjacent to punk and happening at the same time, and there's a lot of overlap, and like a lot of the American new wave bands get the punk tag too, or like a post-punk tag, but then there's kind of like the UK new wave stuff, and that goes into new romantic, and that all is like, that to me does come from punk. That comes from the UK punk scene. That comes from the post-punk scene, which is why I think it should, especially New Romantics, because like all of those bands were just like listening to post-punk.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's because that's what I'm thinking of when I say new wave. I'm not really thinking of Blondie when I think of new wave, because they were part of that very specific CBGB's scene. You know, your B-52s are up there, Talking Heads are up there. Like, I mean, I guess I still consider some of that early Talking Heads, I guess, fits more like art punk to me. But then, yeah, definitely some new wave stuff there. I definitely consider the 80s output of Talking Heads more new wave than the 70s output. But, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. But again, to me, it's still like, then that means it's closer to the roots of punk if it's a spin-off of the initial, U.S. punk music. But
yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where you can see the case for it being both. And like new wave isn't really a genre.
Yeah.
You can't truly define it musically. It really is so much more like a movement or like or just a market distinction.
Yeah, I mean, I'd almost be more willing to put new wave as a pop genre than a rock genre. Like, to me, that makes a little more sense. But yeah, I don't know. It's always funny how this website thinks of new wave. But
this record really stood out to me on that first listen as being really impressive. And I've meant to listen to more of their records, but I don't think I have actually heard anything else by them.
Yeah, so I have a very similar kind of entry point for modern English as well. I had always heard that this record's really good and that the band is really good, but I'd never heard anything outside of, the big single. So I think there was just a point where I was going, maybe I was just playing my own personal or Punk Lotto Pod, where I was just choosing a year and then finding something to listen to from that year. And I definitely listened to this record, and I remember thinking, man, that record is really good. Like, it's way better than I expected, even though it came like highly recommended. Like, it was definitely well regarded, well reviewed, and thought of as like, and it has the big single on it. So yeah, I was definitely still surprised by how good the whole record was. I guess I thought maybe there's a chance it's one of those albums where it's like, oh, it's a one song record, and it really wasn't. So yeah, my experience with them was like, man, that's a good record. And then I've never listened to anything else by them. They do seem to have a pretty consistent catalog as far as what people think of them.
To a point. They drop off in the late 80s from the looks of it, and they slow down significantly to where they're only doing like a record every 4 or 6 years, and then they stop in the late 90s. But their comeback records, 2017, 2024, have decent scores on Rate Your Music, which I find intriguing.
Yeah.
They have the current lineup basically is the original lineup. Like, since 2010, they reunited with Robbie, Michael, Gary, and Stephen Walker, who were all there in 79.
Mm-hmm.
The only person who doesn't come back is the drummer.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's Rick Chandler, and he just joined in 2010, never in the band prior to this, which is weird. Like, who played drums then after? John Solomon did from 98 to 2002. So who picks up drums in 86? Is it just a case of, it might be a case of just touring drummers and that's it? I don't know. Yeah, well, I got a little backstory on them. So, they originally formed under the name The Lepers, and the band consisted of Robbie Gray, Gary McDowell, and Michael Conroy. So the band was literally just the bassist, the guitarist, and the singer. Don't know how you play shows like that. I don't know if somebody else was playing drums, but they didn't add a drummer to the band until a little later. But they're part of the early punk scene in the UK. They primarily play at parties. Like, that is where they played most shows, which I guess that's how you do a band without a drummer, is you can only just play at with your friends. Thought that was an interesting way to start. But their very first show is opening for Susie and the Banshees and Adam and the Ants. So that's a pretty great opening first show. It's always amazing, like, all these bands are like, oh yeah, their first show was with this like 2 other legendary bands who were already kind of established. So that's always funny to me. But they add Richard Brown and Stephen Walker to the band and then change their name to Modern English. They release a debut single on their own record label called Limp in 1979. And this actually manages to get the attention of 4AD. And in 1980, they signed with the label and they released their debut full-length album Mesh and Lace in 1981. And their sound was originally more inspired by Joy Division and Wire. And with this record, they moved into a little bit more Simple Minds, Duran Duran, poppier direction. And when I listen to this, I hear a lot of the Cars in some songs too. But they wind up recording with Hugh Jones, who previously had recorded bands Echo and the Bunnymen, Bauhaus, The Undertones, The Teardrop Explodes, and Strawberries by The Damned. I don't know what month these albums came out. I don't know when the Damned record came out, so it might have been before or after, but the band also credits Hugh Jones for the sound of this record, and he really wanted them to focus more on the songwriting, which to them at that point, they weren't even sure what he meant by that, which I find very funny, that they like already had an entire album and they're still like, what? You want us to focus on our songwriting? I didn't listen to that first record to see what they sounded like. I know it's like a darker sound, moodier. So maybe there's just like, they said that like he taught us how to string together a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, a bridge, another chorus. I was like, you mean the basic pop song structure? You had to be taught how to do that? I mean, I guess you have to be taught how to do it well is more important, but they had written the song I Melt With You, and this one of those songs that was written in 10 minutes. At least the lyrics were written in 10 minutes. And then they had to be talked into actually recording that song for the record because the band was like, I don't know, it's too poppy. Like, we don't have any songs like this that are this poppy. I don't know, it doesn't fit. And then Hugh Jones is like, the song is too good for you to not include on the record. You have to put that song on the album. Like, just do it, you know? And it's funny because a lot of bands tend to like grow to hate their most popular song. Like, if they're known for just like one particular song, a lot of times bands are like, ugh, we gotta play this song again. But they have a pretty positive outlook. Like, they are very much very grateful for that song being a hit. Like, I read an interview with them and like when their last record came out, and Robbie Gray was like, oh, that song paid for literally everything we ever did after that. He's like, that song made it so that we could be a band for a living. Like, we didn't have to stop at any points that we didn't want to. And there's like he made a comment too. It's like somebody was like, I'm sure you bought some houses on that song alone. And he was like, we made $90,000 for the song being used in a Burger King commercial. And he said Steven was a vegetarian at the time, and he had to be talked into it. But once he found out how much money they were getting, he was fine with it.
Oh, shit. Can't turn that down.
Yeah. Which, hey.
I'll stop the bun and melt the cheese.
Which, it's funny. I guess it's like he compromised his morals by being like, okay, Burger King. But to be fair, Burger King is the only national chain with a Beyond or an Impossible Burger on their menu regularly. So that's something to be, it's not nothing,
Moving forwards, using all my breath. Making love to you was never second best. I saw the world crashing all around your face, never really knowing it was always mesh and lace. I'll stop the world and melt with you. You've seen the difference and it's getting better all the time. There's nothing you and I won't do. I'll stop the world and melt with you. We should know better. Dream of better.
Yeah, they're super grateful for that song. They're very happy that song was very popular. And the record was recorded at the legendary Rockfield Studios. So many albums have been recorded there. And in 1982, 4AD also released music by the Cocteau Twins, Bauhaus, The Birthday Party, and The Happy Family, which is the former Joseph K. band.
So I bet 4AD was happy that they put that song out too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because 4AD was a fairly new label at this point. Like, they didn't have a ton. Like, the stuff they were putting out was Bauhaus, was Birthday Party. These Cocteau Twins, like, their first LP is 82.
Clan of Zymox.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. It's a. There was one quote that somebody said they went to go see, or they told their friend they were going to go see Modern English, and it was like back in the 80s. And the friend was like, "Well, I hope you want to be sad," because the conception of 480 at the time was just these like gloomy and dark bands, sad bands on the label. And he's like, "Actually, no, this band's pretty fun." So they kind of do stand out as a little different from the rest of the 480, catalog up to this point. 480 eventually expands it a little bit more, the Pixies eventually wind up on 480, and it's nothing like super duper poppy still, but there's hooks in Pixies. So
I mean, they would do, the Breeders, they would do a bunch of the shoegaze stuff.
Yeah.
And some of that's a little bit poppy.
And then the album was released in the US on Sire Records as well, which I think it was a year later it came out here. But that's kind of the basics about it. I was reading their story, and it's like, it's not the most eventful story. Like, their story is kind of like, yeah, we got along for the most part. Like, there are times where people leave the band, but like you said, most of them are back in it now.
Yeah.
And there's only one member who's from the original lineup that's not with them now. And I don't know the story about why he didn't come back, but I wouldn't be surprised that he was just like, nah, I'm retired. I don't want to do it,
Well, because he left in
86.
86, before they were even done.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Gary, Steven, and Richard all left in 86 and didn't come back until 2010, it looks like. So it was Robbie and Michael. I mean, Michael was out in 86, but then back in 89 and 91. So really, kind of like Robbie was the only consistent member, as consistent as the band even was for that stretch of from 86 to 96 or whatever. But all of those guys leaving are probably why the 86 and 96 records are not very well regarded.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the first three are the strongest. Whoa. I was just looking for the album Stop Start. They supported the album with a tour with Africa Bambaataa and a Flock of Seagulls. Weird. Yeah, so yeah, that's the main basic story. There's not a ton of just like drama in this band. This is a fairly like, even though the members of the band quit, they seem fine. They don't really seem to have too many problems with each other.
Yeah, I do want to know what was going on in the time period that led Gary McDowell to get all of those face tattoos.
Yeah, I sent you that a picture of them last night, and I was like, or yesterday, and I was like, what? I did not expect Modern English to be a band with a guy with a bunch of face tattoos in it. I still don't. Like, I look at the band, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what a band like this would look like, and then he's there too, and it's like, huh? What's this guy's story?
He's like it's face tattoos and like turquoise jewelry and
yeah.
I wonder if it's like spiritual, like Eastern.
There is a little bit of that vibe going on, especially with like the turquoise and all that, of the jewelries and stuff. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's not prison face tats. It's not dock worker face tats.
Okay, he's got some Central Asian looking clothing in some of these pictures.
Yeah.
Wild looking guy. He's got some gold capped teeth that look like all canine implants. Anyway, this record, it has the single, which is the most forwardly pop song on the record.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that the rest of the record isn't melodic. It's all pretty melodic stuff. It's not like it's super experimental or anything. But I would say that most of the songs don't have that level of a hook.
Yeah, which when I listen to the record, you think that would be a drawback. Like, I Met With You has such a massive hook that you'd think like the other songs not having really big hooks like that would be a drawback. There are some.
You expect, as catchy as that song is, and as long as you've heard that song, like on the radio, in commercials, and you don't really get tired of it. Like, it's just a solid song.
Yeah, I mean, it became this like classic.
You would expect this record to be more like and for this record to have kind of a reputation that it has, a high enough regard, and people saying like, "Oh, yeah, that's a really good record. You should listen to it." You would expect it to be something along the lines of like a Tears for Fears record would be, where you're like, "Oh shit, like that. I know that one. I know that one. I know that one." It's like, oh, that's really catchy. Like, there's like real strong album cuts too, and I would say there's strong album cuts, but nothing that stands out in a way that I Melt With You does. Everything else on the record, before and after, and I Melt With You is like right there in the middle. It's the peak of the record. Everything before and after that song blends together, but in a really enjoyable way. I feel like it sucks you in to the experience of listening to the record, and then it swells up to this big point, and then you kind of come back down from that, and you just kind of like coast on the cool vibe of this record. Because nothing else stands out super strong individually as songs.
Yeah, the last three tracks of the record feel like the denouement of the record. Like, it's like, oh yeah, we peaked, and the rest is the come down from the peak. And normally you'd be like, that's a bad thing. You don't want your record to like peak and then go down from there. And I do think the back half of the record is, I was gonna say it's the weakest, but it's not even like, that's not even true either. The weak part actually to me is the two leading up to I Met With You. I think Face of Wood and Dawn Chorus are probably the two weakest songs on the record. Because it starts strong. It starts off with Someone's Calling. That's a really fun song. Lots of big like tom drums and some really fun synths on there. Like even though it sounds kind of like 8-bit synths in there at some places. And then Life in the Glad House is like a step up. But that's another really fun song. Really percussive track. Face of the Wood, it's slow. It's that one's pretty weak to me. And then Dawn Chorus it's got like that reverby guitar, a little pulsing bass, but it doesn't have like, it starts slow, but then it picks up energy on the back end of the song. And then everything I have after I Met With You is After the Snow and Carry Me Down and Tables Turning. Like I find all of those like really good, really strong. Even Carry Me Down, which is like the weird song with like the flute in it and with like a lot of acoustic guitar too. It's fun. It was different enough too that it also works as like the second to last song.
It really catches you off guard with that flute.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was surprising when I heard it. I was like, what? What is this?
Which is something that really struck me about this record because, well, it kind of made me think of, there's the, I'm trying to think of bands that fit this category. I feel like we've talked about one recently. Like somebody that put out a new record this year, and it's fully like 80s new romantic revival kind of like stuff. There's a certain category of new bands today that look at bands like Modern English and New Order and a lot of stuff from this time period and the jangle pop stuff in general, especially when the ones that lean into the much more 80s Smiths style of jangle pop, how they kind of emulate sort of like the peak elements of 80s new wave and jangle-y bands, and like there's a very dialed in sound that everybody has, that it's like they've got the stilted fake British voice and like, there's the acoustic guitars and there's the chorusy electric guitars and there's 12 strings and there's just all of these things that are just like what you think of are, this is the production style of 80s new wave, British new wave bands, and they'll emulate that really directly. But then those records really, a lot of times, fall flat because they don't take any chances. And when you listen to great records from this time period, there's shit like that flute on this record, on those records. And you're like, they took a chance on something. And it might not be the most standout song on the record, but it's different and it's unique. And it breaks it up from being just a monotonous wash of jangly guitars and Morrissey vocals. You have some swings from time to time, and you pull from different places. And I think there's more of that on this record. It's not as obvious as the flute.
Yeah.
But I do think there are so many moments throughout the record, especially in the guitar work, where they're figuring out how to make that sound.
Right, they're inventing the sound at the time.
And you can hear those swings happening. And when it hits, like it's a home run.
I mean, even with like Face of Wood, which I think is like one of the weakest songs on the record, it has those vocal harmonies that are very like 60s inspired. You know, like you hear the little Mamas and Papas, little like the slower Beach Boys songs where they're doing the harmonies together. Like they're trying something different. It's a swing, and I personally think it's a miss, but it's not bad either.
Well, there's so many things that there's this washy soundscape of like, for a part of a song you have this kind of like Talking Heads riff.
Yeah.
And you have like a synth part that comes up, and they play with this like hard panning, like they play with that stereo field and have something comes up over here and then something comes up over here, and like these parts trade off. But like Face of Wood, that song in particular, it's got thump 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 on the hi-hats. Like it has this constant driving beat, which is, and it's pure New Order. Like it's just disco hi-hat and
they
driving
beat
bass line the whole song.
They beat New Order to it, though. That's the funny thing. Like, is New Order even a thing yet in 82?
I mean, it arguably it's Joy Division.
Yeah. which
Because
they
those
were
definitely
inspired by Wire and Joy Division.
elements of Joy Division records, but yeah, you have the synthier and the prettier aspect of New Order happening on this record. You
Yeah,
don't get
Movement
that
had
on
come
Joy
out in
Division.
'81, so like they already had that first record, but that first record just feels like another Joy Division record, like
Yeah,
just with a different singer, you know.
a better version of Closer.
Yeah, that's right. We said it.
Yeah. What you gonna do about it? What do you think about that?
The rhythm of the rain plays enough beats on the window pane. Like an angel crying from the sky. I can see its beauty after the storm. I can see its beauty after the storm.
How much XTC do you think is in their background? Like, how much do you think they're...
There's a lot that sounds like XTC to a point that I would suspect they were listening to XTC.
Yeah. I didn't see a lot of comparisons to XTC when I was looking up this record. And there is some there. I think there is. Maybe it's a case of the mutuals. They're both Wire inspired. And so maybe that's what it is.
Maybe.
It's just they're pulling from the same influences, and that's how you wind up with...
And they're probably pulling from similar, like, 60s influences, too.
Yeah. Because they had done Black Sea. Well, they did English Settlement in 82, but Black Sea would have been the one that was out. And
I mean, at this point, XTC would have, like, at least 3 or 4 records.
yeah. Yeah, they already had they had 4. They already had White Music, Go To, Drums and Wires, and Black Sea. So, I mean, I guess XTC are more upbeat at this point. So,
I mean, English Settlement came out in February of 82, and this came out in April of 82, so not likely that record directly would have had much influence, though that is probably the XTC record that I think is most similar to this one.
you don't think Skylarking?
Up to this point, up to this point.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Up to this-
Skylarking, after, yeah.
Which that makes me go, were you listening to Modern English when you did Skylarking? But,
But
Yeah.
yeah,
because XTC still
I mean,
have, like,
even-
majors and generals and mages, still upbeat, kind of fast songs.
I mean, up to this point, the prettier, artier stuff,
It's Wire, right? Like, it's more Wire.
maybe a little Wire, maybe a little Susie even.
That's true. Yeah, Susie could be. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up their Wikipedia because I love when Wikipedia gives you the like list of bands that they're inspired by. Let's see, because all the interviews I read where they were specifically were Joy Division and Wire before this album, and it honestly feels like this record is only sounds like it does just because of the producer kind of pushed them in that direction, and they probably wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. They probably would have eventually got there, but I don't think that was what they were setting out to do initially. It doesn't give me the whole inspired by section. Their Wikipedia is kind of thin. I was a little surprised. I think that comes from them not being a very drama heavy band. So it's like, it leads to just more of like, and they toured for this album and they signed to this label,
Yeah. I mean, Hugh Jones doing Echo, Teardrop Explodes, Simple Minds, Adam and the Ants, The Damned, multiple Damned records, because he engineered the Black Album. Especially Echo.
Yeah, Echo, I feel like, Echo is probably the thing. They may not have been inspired by Echo, but him being on those Echo records and doing this one feels like
Yeah.
that's probably where it comes from. He did the sound too. That was the other one.
Which it's like, is Hugh going like, oh, well, Will Sargent does this with his guitar on, here's how you do it with that delay pedal.
Yeah, and then he goes on and does stuff with like Dump Truck and Icicle Works. I'm trying to see if he does any like real weird out there kind of stuff. He does do Tinderbox. He's the engineer on that one. I'm looking to see what he did in the the 90s. Pale Saints, a couple times. Charlatans. He does another Echo record in 2005. Yeah, his biggest sphere of influence is the 80s, though.
So this is interesting. I was just curious. Like, I was looking modern English guitar pedals because I was curious. And Gary McDowell said that the producer refused to use artificial reverb or delay on At Least I Melt With You, and probably to some extent a lot of the record. He didn't like using effects. He'd put an amplifier in a bathroom and place a mic down the hall to get a natural reverb. He might fill the room with cardboard boxes. So Hugh, I guess, somewhat of a purist producer.
Yeah. I don't want to use these newfangled tricks, you know.
I don't want no digital reverb.
Which in
I
82...
can control the acoustics myself.
Which in 82, you have to think that, like, it's still not that easy, you know, to work with reverb, you know.
Like, yeah, he said we never used any distortion pedals. We didn't use any pedals. He didn't like using any effects units. He'd put an amplifier in a bathroom. He'd just record different things with different ambience around them. Like an acoustic would be done in a tiled room. He would try to record outside. Which that would just be like no reverb.
Yeah, that's the opposite of reverb. Unless you're trying to catch, like, that far away kind of echoey reverb that you get, you know, from...
He didn't use any ADT devices. No auto double tracking. He would get you to double track it manually, and then he would slow the track down to give you those chorusy sounds. So he's doing literal chorus effects, flanging, like actual old school tape flanging.
I bet a lot of that is just because what he's already used to using at that point.
He already knew how to do it, so...
Yeah. I also feel like you might be able to manipulate it a little bit more than you would with just a pedal, you know? You might wind up accidentally creating something more unique sounding. This record is really good. Like, there's not a real bad song on the album. Like, even the weakest songs are still very good songs. But I Melt With You, that is I feel like that's a once-in-a-lifetime song. Like, that's a song that you can only... Well, we know this. That's the only song they have that sounds like that big and that level. They hit that hard culturally. Which, funnily, I was looking at the like charting for this record, and the album itself hits number... Where's it at? It hits number 70 on the Billboard charts. It sold 500,000 copies, certified gold. They chose 3 singles, Life in the Glad House, I Met With You, and Someone's Calling. Right choices, I think. I noticed they waited for I Met With You, though. Like, let's do that one second. And then the song I Met With You was featured prominently in the film Valley Girl, which is where a lot of people heard it for the first time. And then the song itself hits number 72 on the Hot 100. So you hear that song, and you think, ah, yes, iconic 80s hit song. It wasn't that big of a hit. I mean, it was a hit, but not like top 20. It's not a top 40 song, you know. It's 72, which is good, but not, in the moment, was not like this, like, it's everywhere. It's not the top song on the charts everywhere. But then just over time, I think it's just its use as this is an 80s song. It's just like the idea of it being this, like, it's an 80s essential kind of song. Like, it's on all the 80s playlists. You know, it's up there with all your standard. You go to an 80s playlist, you go to the 80s, you know, the 80s, like, Sirius XFM station, and like, it's everywhere. But it's used in commercials, it's used in movies, it's literally everywhere. But in the moment, it was just like, minor hit, you know? And it has this staying power that it's one of those 80s songs that I never get tired of. Like, I am never tired of this song. It's currently being used in like a Hershey's commercial. And I probably hear it every day at work. That commercial's been running for like 2 years now, too. Like, that commercial's been running for a long time. Food companies really, really like that melting part. They like, yeah, melted cheese, melted chocolate, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you know what it's about?
Well, it's one of the...
Yeah. It's a nuclear war song. It's a love song, too, It's the song is the idea is like it's a couple like making love as the world is ending and they're being rained down on with nuclear fire, and the melt with you is literally they're melting from nuclear fallout. He's like, he said so many people come up to us and say, "Oh, that was our song at our wedding. Like we played that song at our wedding, and or somebody sang it." And it's just like, yeah. I mean, it's still a love song, but it's a very dark love song, which is funny that it's like burgers and chocolate song. That's like any time though, like what 99 Love Balloons is used in pop culture. It's always like, the balloons are filled with poisonous gas. That's what that song is about.
I saw Stretch Armstrong in the like 2006 or something like that cover Melt With You.
Mm-hmm.
It was like one of the last songs they played. Might have literally been the last song they played. And after they played, we were waiting to be picked up by my cousin and I were waiting to be picked up by my aunt, and I went up to the bar and just got like a water or something, or like, I don't know, I always remember getting like a pink lemonade Snapple at that venue. All these people are ordering beers and they're like, I'll have the pink lemonade Snapple.
Yeah, because that was one of those venues where like you could be under 21 to come in, but you had to pay like an extra like $2 on your ticket to get in. Yeah. Which, fair. That's fine. I mean, dumb. I prefer in all ages, but like at least you let them in, you know?
Oh, it was just like the way around. Like you could be a member of the club was how it worked to be allowed in. It was just like liquor law stuff.
Yeah, I wonder, is that still a thing? At least here, and I wonder if it is still a thing in North Carolina. I feel like I haven't been asked for anything in a long time.
Well, yeah. You also just probably don't get carded anywhere.
It's true. I guess, yeah, you had to do that member thing. But also, I feel like it used to be, I remember going to one club once, and like we got there early enough where they're like, we need to put your name down as a member. It's like, apparently you can have like a certain amount. You need a certain amount of people in there to be members. And once you do that, you don't have to have everybody be a member.
Yeah.
And it's just like this weird, it's like, don't worry, you're not paying anything extra. We're just going to write your name down and say you're a member of our, very weird.
It's just like a weird workaround. It was really dumb, because if it was that easy to work around it, then what was the point of the rule at all? But
yeah.
But I was at the bar, and there was this weird old townie guy. It was like clearly not there for the Stretch Armstrong show. It was just like some guy who lived in the neighborhood that would like pay the cover to come in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe if he was that regular, they may not have charged him anything. They might just said, all right, come on in. Go sit at the bar.
Here's Gary.
Yeah.
He doesn't know any of these bands are. He just drinks like 6 beers.
He wants to drink every night.
And he was drunk, and he was standing next to me, and he's like, he like turns and looks at me, he's like, I'll stop the world and melt with you. Who sings that? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, I know it's a cover.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was originally.
Isn't that the same show where they were like, I know we're not supposed to play covers here, or something like that? Because I think it's probably one of those bars that's just like, they don't want cover bands, so they say no covers. And they probably don't want to pay that stupid BMI ASCAP fee that
they played music over the speaker, so they had to.
Yeah.
If you play any music over a PA in a restaurant, you have to have that PRO blanket license.
Do you remember when we were booking at that coffee shop and they started to do the same thing? They were like, no covers. Nobody could play a cover in here. Because they didn't want to pay whatever license. Because they were playing overhead music, and I guess a BMI representative came in and was like, you don't have a license to play this. It's like, what? I don't even know how that happened. How did that happen?
They do audit that stuff.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
That's your job. Imagine that being your job. You have to go to like restaurants and bars and just be like, do you have a license to play this?
A license?
It's like, oh, snitch. Your job is snitch.
But it's snitching to make sure that you get money to pay artists and songwriters.
I think it's just money that they get paid. I don't know that it's like that they care about paying the artists. Get us that license money.
But you also pay. They also get paid by the artists to have their, songwriters to have their songs registered. I don't know. It's all weird. Accounting is very not transparent.
Yeah.
But people do get paid from them. Like, smaller artists than you think do get paid.
Right, because they're not
CSAC.
tracking what gets played at the place. They just want a general license, which is funny because it's their different licensing. So technically, you need a license for all of them, unless you're like I only play BMI music in my restaurant. Like, how do you don't know what that is? Like, so you got to get the BMI, you got to get the ASCAP, you got to get like all of them. It's weird.
I feel like there's like one blanket PRO license.
Yeah, that then just gets divvied up amongst the big licensing. I don't know. I don't understand it. It feels racket. Very much like a racket. It feels like, I don't know. It feels like part of that, like part of the reason why the record industry died is dying.
The Mechanical Licensing Collective issues them to DSPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is like a blanket license that you can get. It's been a long time since I took music business. I forget how a lot of this shit works.
While we're on music business, right now, Spotify is going after music-based podcasts a lot. Like, One Band, 5 Songs. He gets a new batch of emails weekly saying, your episode's been pulled. Your episode's been pulled. Like, I think over half his catalog is gone from Spotify now. Which is weird, because a lot of that stuff, like most of the episodes under his catalog were under that talk and play thing, which was their feature that they discontinued. And it's like, well, you could have got around this entirely by leaving that feature as an option. But also the thing that's weird about it is it's just like, it's just being pulled. You got to take the song out. And it's like, YouTube doesn't do that. YouTube just demonetizes you. Unless it's in like one of those weird regions where it's just like, no, it cannot be out here. But it's like, that's so few and far between. We maybe have like 5 episodes that are not on YouTube in the world. I think that's it. It's because it's just, you don't have the license for this in this territory. We have a couple of those territories too, like outside of the US. It's just weird. It's just like,
it's weird that our show on Spotify has had none pulled.
Not yet. They just haven't got to us. They just got to Your Music Saved Us like last week and yanked a bunch of their episodes, and they just said, fuck you, Spotify, and then delete. They removed their show from Spotify.
Yeah,
they're just like,
hit soon then.
Fuck you. Yeah. Well, we're so close to everybody who's getting pulled, so it's just kind of like weird that we haven't been hit. I don't know why, because I was going to say maybe it's because they play full songs, because Dave plays full songs. Your Music Saved Us doesn't play full songs. So maybe they were getting all the full song people first. Because Growing Up Punk is another podcast that I know that they got pulled too, but they were full songs too. But anyway, the whole idea is just like, YouTube just demonetizes you if you don't have none of our episodes can be monetized because we don't own any of the songs that we've used on any of the shows. Fine, I understand that, but the episode's still there. You can still hear it. So it's like, why doesn't Spotify just do that? And the only thing I can think of is that, I don't know, they monetize some podcasts on Spotify, but I don't think Apple monetizes or the other podcasting apps. Those I think are just like, no, we're just here. And then they probably get like a fee from the hosting sites that, that's how they cover that. So it's just weird that Spotify is doing just like, we're just going to yank it instead of doing a demonetized thing, if that's the problem. They got sued, or they're threatened to be sued, and then they got sued for some other like wonky stuff they were doing with audiobooks and like bundling things together and trying to pay less instead of per play. It was like, Spotify is just a shady fucking company. It's just like, I think that's why they're being attacked. They're not being. I'm not even gonna say being attacked. They are getting sued for shit because they're like shady and.
Well, they're not paying for streams under 1,000 plays. They're not paying for anything that has been streamed less than 1,000 times. It's like there's statutory rates that you have to pay no matter what. How are you getting around that?
Yeah. All that to say, it's probably coming. We will probably be hit one day. They just haven't found ours yet. Whatever bots they have just trolling has not found our songs yet and yanked us. Honestly, just using the Jawbox intro for the show is why we can't monetize on YouTube alone. Like, that's like every single video we put up, it says, well, you're using this song. You can't use it. And it's like Sony is making the claim on it too. It's like, is J. Robbins getting a piece of this?
They have an automatic claim on it, yeah.
Yeah. The Orchard is claiming this. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird that Spotify is just like outright yanking stuff instead of just doing the demonetized route. I don't know. Who's listening to a podcast and like, I don't even know what the argument it is, like, oh, you're listening to this song for free. It's like, yeah, I could do that on YouTube. I can do that on,
I can already hear the song for free on the streaming services.
Yeah.
Just might be interrupted with commercials.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't.
I mean, this is all dating the episode, so I don't know. Anyway, it's been a...
Yeah.
If you listen to us on Spotify, be on the lookout. Maybe prepare to listen to us somewhere else. YouTube Music has us. We're on the Amazon one too, whatever that is worth. I don't know anybody listens to Amazon podcasts, but yeah, Apple's there. Apple sucks, but anyway. So yeah, the record does well enough in the United States that they move to New York City, and I guess they just stay here until when they break up. And they break up briefly in 87. They reunite in 89. They break up again in 91, and then they reunite permanently in 95. And then 2010 is when the original lineup returns to the band live. So for the most part, they've been besides what? Was that like 5 years even where they weren't a band? So I did read one interesting article too that was talking about how, you always manage to bring these like interesting bands out on tour. And I really like that part because a friend of the show, Ganser, was supposed to go tour with Modern English when they did a tour here in the U.S.
Yeah, it was like a Midwestern lag or something.
Yeah. And then I don't remember the reason why they had to back out of it. I think Ganser had to back out for some reason. They weren't able to do it.
I thought Modern English canceled those dates.
Oh, do you think they just canceled the dates?
I think that I thought they had canceled it it might have been because of health problems. I think Gary is currently not touring with them right now because he's got some health problems. So I'm wondering if that was around that time.
Yeah. But the reason why I bring them up anyway is that I think there was an interview with Robbie and he was like, oh yeah, like two of the guys in the band are like super really tapped into new music as it's, coming out. So they're just like really paying attention to new stuff. And they're the ones who are like, we should bring this band on tour. Which to me goes, man, they're just like, hell yeah, this Ganser record's cool. Let's see if they want to go on tour with us. Which is really awesome that they do that.
It's really cool that a band that can tour purely on their one 80s hit, on a one-hit wonder status, truly.
Right.
Would be like, oh yeah, let's find dope young bands.
Yeah.
To bring on tour.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, it's just a really awesome thing that they do. And they're not just like, yeah, we just took out, the same bands that we, were touring with in the 80s,
Yeah. We did a package tour with other 80s bands. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they did the tour with, it's like Simple Minds, Soft Cell, and Modern English toured together, but that was Simple Minds' tour. They were the headliners. So that's them going, let's find the other bands and take them out together. And I guess they did it just for the payday, and they probably like those other bands too. But when it's Modern English as the headliner, they are like, cool, let's see who we can find, to go on tour with us. They brought Alan White on tour with them in October of last year. I don't know who Alan White is. Like, that's a band. That's not even a person. That's a band name. Like, it's just funny. They're tapped in. They're like looking at new music that they're like, what works with us? Cool, let's bring them on tour, That may have even helped like kind of endear them to younger audiences or like more modern audiences by not just like resting on their laurels. I mean, they put out a record in last year, 2024. I didn't listen to it, but I don't know. I just haven't listened to any of their other records, so I can't say for sure what they sound like or the quality of their stuff, but they're a band like Wire and New Order who still just put out new records, Well, you want to give it a rating and get out of here? Unless you have some other thoughts.
Yeah, we can give this one a rating.
I'm gonna give it a 4.0. I think that's where I'm at. I think it's a great record.
I'm kind of in that 4 and trending upward.
4.0 plus.
Yeah. It's a 4.0 with a positive outlook.
Yeah.
This one could continue to grow in appreciation. I mean, I liked it more this time than the last time. And, like, the last time was, like, a really memorable, first time listen of, like, wow, that's actually a really good record. And I should listen to more of their records. I'm very interested to listen to more of their records.
Yeah. Yeah, I should at least listen to like the two other like records on either side of this, which are the the other equally highly praised albums. And I am very curious. I'm always curious about a band who just like never really stops and continues to release music. What are the rest of those records like? Like at one point I was like, should I do Modern English for a Challengeography? It's not too many where it's overwhelming, like a Wire would be, like Wire or New Order. Like they just have so many records. And I don't know what the quality of those later albums are. I think they're supposedly consistent, but I don't know. But this could be a case of like, yeah, those 90s records are not very good, I don't know. I do find that kind of stuff interesting, so yeah, I need to listen to more. Again, I'm with you. The first time I listened to it, my takeaway like then was like, that's a really good record. And that stuck with me, that it was a really good record. And so like revisiting it, I was like, yep, it's better this time around. I listened to it a second time getting ready for the show, and I was like, better than the first time I listened to it for the show. Like, it just continues to get better. So I think there's a chance, like, if you listen to it again, it'll be like, man, that's a 4.5 now, So definitely a really good record. Highly recommended. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for us. So thank you all so much for listening. You can follow us on all forms of social media. We're at punklautopod, punklautopod@gmail.com, and our voicemail line is 202-688-PUNK. We have a few to do a voicemail mailbag episode. I'd like a couple more. I need to push this at the top of the show so people can hear it and remember, and then go and make some posts on Blue Sky and Instagram and stuff like that. But I think we just need to get a couple more, and I think we have enough for at least a 30 to 40 minute episode. So, be on the lookout for that. So yeah, we appreciate it, and we will talk to you next time.
To order Punk, call the number on your screen. Rush delivery is available. Remember, this special offer is not sold in stores.